West Virginia is one of the most beautiful states in the country. But if you look past the mountains and the rivers, you'll find communities where thousands of people once built entire lives and then had to walk away from everything. These are 10 of those places, and most people have never heard of a single one of them. Number 10. Sewell, West Virginia, Fayette County. The last person to live here walked out in 1973, not because of a fire, not because of a flood, just because there was nothing left. And that quiet, undramatic ending is exactly what makes Sewell's story worth telling. Sewell grew up along the New River in the late 1800s to do one thing: produce coke. If that's not a familiar term, coke is what you get when you seal coal inside stone ovens and heat it until every impurity burns away, leaving behind a nearly pure carbon fuel hot enough to smelt iron into steel. Without it, the great American steel industry couldn't have run. Sewell was one of dozens of West Virginia communities that existed specifically to keep that industry going. Life in Sewell revolved entirely around those ovens and the mines that fed them. Company row houses climbed the hillside. Miners ran a tab at the company store, groceries, boots, tools, and paid it down on payday. When shifts ended, the hollow came alive again. Children in the roads, women in the gardens, men on the porch with the smell of coal smoke still in their clothes. Hard life, full life. Then the steel industry modernized. New production methods made small coke operations like Sewell economically obsolete. Output slowed. The company saw no reason to keep investing. Families began leaving, not all at once but steadily, until the last holdout finally locked up and left in 1973. Sewell sits inside Babcock State Park today. If you know where to look, the original coke ovens are still standing in the woods. Massive brick chambers, cracked open by decades of weather, trees growing straight up through the floors. Most people hike right past them without a second glance, with no idea what they are or what was built here. Number 9. Nuttleberg, West Virginia, Fayette County. There is no road to this town. The only way in is on foot, down more than 800 stairs cut directly into the wall of the New River Gorge. And when you reach the bottom, you find equipment so large and so intact that it looks less like an abandoned mine and more like a place that was simply locked up and left. John Nuttall staked his coal claim along the New River in the early 1900s. The gorge walls were nearly vertical, which meant moving coal out required a different kind of engineering. A massive iron tipple built right into the cliffside, with a conveyor system running alongside it, designed to load coal directly onto the C&O railroad cars waiting below. When the rail line came through in 1873, Nuttleberg became one of the most productive coal shipping operations in the entire gorge. Families made that hollow their home. Miners surfaced from shifts black with coal dust, ate supper with their wives and children, and went back underground the next morning. There was a company store, a school, and the kind of tight community that only forms when every family's survival depends on the same thing. By 1958, the accessible seams had run thin, and the railroad contracts that made the whole operation worth running dried up with them. The company closed out, and the families who had built lives in that gorge gathered what they could carry and climbed those stairs for the last time. The iron tipple is still standing. 40 coke ovens are still visible in the underbrush. The old rail tracks disappear into the vegetation, and the safety notices the company posted for its miners, warnings about gas, ventilation, proper procedure, are still tacked to the walls exactly where they were the day the last worker left. Nobody came back to take them down, and 60 years later, they're still there. Number 8. Volcano, West Virginia, Wood County. Long before Texas, long before Oklahoma, one of the first oil booms in American history happened in a small town in the hills of West Virginia. For a time, that town had every reason to believe it was the beginning of something big. It wasn't. Volcano is in Wood County, and in the mid-1800s, it was among the earliest commercial oil towns in the United States. When the wells came in, the money followed fast. A hotel, a post office, restaurants, a meat market, a pumping station. Businessmen arrived, families settled, workers had steady wages. The streets had the kind of energy that comes when people genuinely believe their town is going somewhere. But the oil industry was already moving toward richer fields in Pennsylvania. investment was quietly following. The wells in Volcano were still producing, but the companies with real capital were pulling away, and the town was already losing ground before the fire ever started. In January 1879, a fire tore through the business district. Kennedy's restaurant burned, the Nicolai Hotel burned, the post office, the meat market, and the pumping station gone. The oil companies that remained had no financial reason to rebuild a town they were already leaving. They packed out, and Volcano went quiet for good. Today, a small museum and gift shop mark the site. For a town that was part of America's first oil boom, a place that deserved a highway marker and a chapter in the history books, that is all that remains. Number 7. Thurman, West Virginia, Fayette County. In 1910, this town was generating more railroad freight revenue than Cincinnati and Richmond combined. 2 banks, 2 hotels, a jewelry store, a movie theater, restaurants, and a poker game that reportedly never stopped for 14 straight years. Today, 5 people live there, and the reason it collapsed will genuinely surprise you. Captain W.D. Thurman received 73 acres along the Chesapeake and Ohio Railway in 1873 as payment for survey work. When the C&O extended its main line through the New River Gorge, those 73 acres became the central hub where coal trains from dozens of mines were assembled and dispatched east. The money that flowed through this narrow strip of land along the river was staggering for a town that barely appeared on a map. Thurman had no road in its early years. The only way in or out was by rail. The commercial buildings ran right up against the tracks with no street between them. Captain Thurman banned alcohol on his property, so across the river, the Dun Glen Hotel operated with no such restrictions and became famous for a poker table that reportedly ran without interruption for 14 consecutive years. Here is what actually killed Thurman. The entire infrastructure, the water towers, the coaling stations, the engine house, the whole rail yard, existed for one purpose: servicing steam locomotives. Steam engines had to stop every 100 miles or so to take on coal and water. Thurman was that stop. When American railroads converted to diesel in the late 1940s and early 1950s, diesel engines could run for hundreds of miles without stopping. Overnight, there was nothing left for Thurman to offer. The hotels had no guests, the banks had no business, the families had no reason to stay. The National Park Service owns most of the town today. The old depot is a visitor center. Amtrak stops 3 times a week, but fewer than 400 passengers a year step off the train. 5 people hold official residence. The streets that once moved 95,000 passengers a day are now quiet enough that you can stand in the center of them and hear nothing but the river. Number 6. Bramwell, West Virginia, Mercer County. If someone told you that a small Appalachian town once had more millionaires per capita than any other place in the United States, you'd probably want to know what it looks like today. The answer is not what you'd expect. At the turn of the 20th century, Bramwell, West Virginia had more millionaires per capita than any other town in the country, not the state. The country. It started with coal. In the 1880s, the Pocahontas seam was discovered in Mercer County, 10 feet thick in places, running for 48 miles, and burning so cleanly that the industry marketed it as smokeless coal. The Norfolk and Western Railroad made 14 stops a day in Bramwell, and the men who controlled the mining operations built their personal homes right here along the Bluestone River, while thousands of miners worked the seams a few miles away. What went up was unlike anything else in Appalachia. A 24-room mansion with a copper roof and an indoor swimming pool. A home built from orange brick imported from England. 17 millionaires living within a short walk of each other. The Bank of Bramwell held so much capital that its janitor's standing job was to push a wheelbarrow of cash down the street to the train depot. That bank sold more World War I war bonds than any other financial institution in the country. October 1929 ended it. The stock market crash gutted most of the fortunes within a few years. The bank failed. Coal demand collapsed with the Depression. The railroad pulled back. The millionaires who hadn't already left lost what remained. The dinner parties, the visiting families from New York, the ballrooms, all of it stopped and never started again. What makes Bramwell different from every other town on this list is that the mansions are still standing. The whole town was placed on the National Register of Historic Places in 1984. The brick streets are still there. You can walk up to those houses today and look directly at what coal wealth built. The population is under 300 and the bank has been gone for nearly a century, but the homes are still on the hillside. And for anyone who sees them without knowing what to expect, they are genuinely difficult to believe. If you're enjoying this, go ahead and subscribe. There's a lot more where this came from. Number 5. Matewan, West Virginia, Mingo County. One afternoon in May of 1920, a group of men finished their work in a small West Virginia river town and walked toward the train station to leave. They never made it. 10 of them were dead within 2 minutes, and what happened in those 2 minutes sent a shockwave through American history that is still felt today. Matewan sat on the Tug Fork River in Mingo County, right along the Kentucky border. A main street, a depot, a church, families, coal wages holding the whole thing together. It looked like any other small southern Appalachian town. What made it different was its police chief. In 1920, the United Mine Workers of America was pushing hard to organize the non-union coal fields of southern West Virginia. Miners who signed their union cards understood the stakes. They would lose their jobs, their company-owned houses, and possibly their safety. The Stone Mountain Coal Company hired the Baldwin Felts Detective Agency to make sure that didn't happen. Baldwin Felts was not a traditional law enforcement agency. They were professional enforcers, and their job was to keep miners in line. On May 19th, 13 Baldwin Felts agents arrived in Matewan to evict mining families from company housing. Women and children were put out into the street at gunpoint, their belongings thrown into the road. When the agents finished and headed for the evening train, Police Chief Sid Hatfield stepped in front of them. Armed miners had quietly surrounded the block. The confrontation escalated in seconds. In under 2 minutes, 10 men were dead, 7 detectives, 2 miners, and the mayor of Matewan himself. What followed was the largest armed labor uprising in American history. The following year, thousands of miners marched under arms in the Battle of Blair Mountain. The coal companies never recovered their total control of southern West Virginia's coal fields. And the labor rights that came out of that era, the right to organize, fair wages, workplace safety protections, are rights that workers across this country still hold today. Matewan is nearly empty now. The depot is a museum. A flood wall along the Tug Fork is covered in murals telling the full story. The building that once served as the Baldwin Felts base of operations still stands on the main street, bullet holes in the walls, exactly where they have been for over 100 years. Number 4. Kmore, West Virginia, Fayette County. You have to descend 821 stairs into the New River Gorge just to reach this place. Most West Virginians have never heard of it, and when you get there you find a town that looks less like a ghost town and more like everyone simply walked off the job one day and forgot to come back. Kmore opened in 1899. Between 1900 and 1962, miners pulled more than 16 million tons of coal from that single mountain. Every ton was dug by men who lived with their families in company houses directly above the mine. Men who sent their children to the company school, attended the company church, and went back underground each morning fully aware that a roof collapse or a gas pocket could end things without any warning. They went down anyway because there was a family waiting for supper. In 1960, a serious fire tore through the town. The site was too isolated and too damaged to justify rebuilding. The company shut the mine down 2 years later, and the families who had spent generations in that gorge had no choice but to leave. The forest moved in fast and has been reclaiming the site ever since. Machinery sits where it last ran, mine buildings tilt at steeper angles every year, and the safety notices posted for the miners, gas warnings, ventilation requirements, emergency instructions, are still pinned to the walls, right where they were the last day this place operated. Walking through Kmore, those signs hit differently than anything else down there. They were written for men who are long gone, and they have been hanging in the silence ever since. Number 3. Colwood, West Virginia, McDowell County. You may have seen the film, you may have read the book, but most people who know the story of Homer Hickam have never been told what Colwood looks like today, and when they find out, it changes how the story lands. George Lafayette Carter rode into McDowell County on the back of a mule in 1905, found rich coal seams in the mountain, and bought 20,000 acres. He built a mine and then built everything around it: company houses, a church, a schoolhouse, a store. He hired a full-time company doctor and dentist. At its peak, over 2,000 people called Coalwood home, and McDowell County became the single highest coal-producing county in the United States. Life there was defined entirely by the mine tipple. Children grew up in its shadow. Miners who had worked those tunnels for 30 years knew every passage by feel alone. The mountain wasn't going anywhere, and most families assumed neither would they. Then in the fall of 1957, the mine superintendent's 14-year-old son looked up and watched Sputnik crossing the night sky, and decided he was going to build rockets. Right there, in a coal town in McDowell County, Homer Hickam and a small group of friends launched homemade rockets from a barren coal dump they named Cape Coalwood. They failed over and over before they got it right. In 1960, they won the National Science Fair. Homer became a NASA engineer and years later wrote the memoir that became the film October Sky. A miner's son from one of the poorest counties in America reached the space program, and that story outlasted the town that raised him. The mine closed for good in 1986. The population fell below 900 by 1990. Today, the tipple is gone, the company store is barely recognizable, and the houses are disappearing one by one back into the hillside. The town that sent a boy to NASA is being quietly returned to the mountain. And most people who love that movie have no idea the place it was set has nearly vanished from the earth. Number 2, Gary, West Virginia, McDowell County. When U.S. Steel arrived in McDowell County in 1902, they did not build a coal operation. They built a world: 12 towns, 15,000 people, schools, churches, a golf course, a bowling alley, a movie theater, a country club. 80 years later, they shut all of it down in less than 12 months and walked out. Gary, West Virginia, was the centerpiece of U.S. Steel's entire Appalachian coal empire. The company purchased more than 50,000 acres along the Tug Fork River and built 12 interconnected company towns, all linked by paved roads and rail spurs, named after U.S. Steel's founding chairman, Elbert Henry Gary, the same man who gave his name to Gary, Indiana. At its peak in the 1940s, Gary Hollow held nearly 15,000 people, 27 churches, 10 company stores, 9 elementary schools, 2 high schools, a bowling alley, a dairy, a bakery, a pool hall, a country club, and a golf course. The workforce was one of the most genuinely diverse communities in the entire region: miners from Hungary, Romania, Italy, Poland, and from across the American South, black and white workers living side by side, and by the 1950s, sending their children to the same schools. The U.S. Coal Commission evaluated Gary in 1923 and gave it a score of 90 out of 100 for cleanliness, safety, and community life. They called it a model for how company towns could be run. And then the coal ran out. The deepest, highest quality seams, the ones that had made Gary worth building in the first place, were largely exhausted by the 1970s. In March 1982, U.S. Steel laid off 500 miners in a single month. By December, every mine the company operated in Gary was permanently closed. By March 1983, unemployment in Gary had reached 90%, the highest figure recorded for any community in the United States at that time, not just in West Virginia, anywhere in the country. By 1990, only 180 mining jobs remained where thousands had once worked. Today, the population across what was once 12 towns is under 800. The old company office sits dark on a hillside. The satellite towns are being absorbed by the forest. The golf course is still open, now called the McDowell Country Club. 15,000 people had real lives here. Faith, family, community built across generations. When the coal was gone, so was the company, and it left without looking back. Number 1, Whipple, West Virginia, Fayette County. There is a building standing in Fayette County that most people in this state have never seen. It is enormous, it is crumbling, and when you understand what it was built to do from the ground floor all the way down to the basement, it will stay with you in a way you do not expect. The Whipple Company store was built in 1890. From the outside, it looks like a large commercial building, but it was never just a store. It was a complete economic control system. Every function of life in a coal mining community compressed into a single structure and engineered to ensure that every dollar a miner earned went directly back to the company. On the main floor, miners and their families bought food, clothing, medicine, tools, and furniture. But not with cash. The company paid wages in scrip, currency it printed itself, which could only be spent at the company store. You worked the mine, you received tokens, and those tokens had no value anywhere else on Earth. There was no other store, no alternative, no exit from the system. The company decided what your labor was worth and then made sure every cent of it came right back. One floor up, a company doctor held office hours, the fee deducted directly from wages before a miner ever saw them, and in the basement, a mortuary. When a miner was killed underground, and men were killed underground regularly, the building that had employed him, paid him in tokens, and sold him his groceries was also the place that prepared his body for burial. From your first day at the mine to the day your family carried you out, Whipple was there for all of it. The families who lived in this community understood the terms. Men went underground every day with a clear-eyed sense of the risk. Women managed a household on whatever scrip remained after the company took its deductions off the top. Children grew up in a system specifically designed so that money never truly left the company's hands. It was the coal camp economy at its most honest, and Whipple was its physical address. When coal demand collapsed through the mid-20th century, the store closed with it. The community emptied out. The building was left exactly as it stood. Shelves bare, floors softening, the basement door shut. It still stands today. People make the drive out specifically to see it. And when they stand in front of it, knowing what happened inside, they feel something that is hard to name precisely. The accumulated weight of generation after generation of people who fed their families through that main floor and whose husbands and fathers came out through the basement. No other single building in West Virginia contains more of what coal country life actually was. That is why it is number one. West Virginia is full of places like these, communities that meant everything to the people who lived there and are now nearly forgotten. If you know an abandoned town or place in West Virginia that deserves its own story, leave it in the comments. And if you enjoy uncovering history like this, subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Thanks for watching.